All right, so China, 10 IPC. We got to do the entry roll.
They're
So
at 3 now. No, they're at 4.
yeah, I'm at 4 now.
And there it
And
is.
there it is. All right, so China is now in the war. I will still only get 10 IPC for this turn. First off, I have to reveal my my 18 infantry that I left hidden, which I took 15 of them. I had 15 infantry stationed here in Kusong, just on the off chance I thought you might get frisky and want to try and take the factory there. And then the other 3 infantry were here in Chosen. Okay, so North Korean, or sorry, Chinese purchases will just be a fighter. China cannot do any combat yet. It'll just be non-combats. So first off, their entire air force will move to back up the North Koreans in their capital. At least their fighter forces will go to back them up. The strategic bomber will stay in the north. Okay, 38th Army. I got to remember how I did this. Okay, so first off for 38th Army, all of the units that can go 2 spaces are going to go... Oops. Or actually, let's do this. So these 18 infantry are going to come to Chimpo. These guys are going to stay in Chosen. Right now, all the units that can move 2 in Anshan are going to come to Kusan. Now, these 8... Okay, these 8 trucks. I had a system and then I completely forgot how I was going to do this massive transport thing. Where are... Okay. So to carry the 9... So to carry the 9 supplies, I have to take 3 of the trucks to carry all the transports, and that leaves me with 5, which can carry 10 more infantry. So, okay, this 10, I'll have to break that up, or do these. All right, and these guys will all move to rejoin 38th Army in Kusong. So we got that. These units will cross the bridge into Mupyongni. I can't even say that correctly. So that, and then the AAA will go with them. Like I said, the bomber. Well, actually, I should probably just bring the bomber to Pyongyang. Keep it protected. Okay, so it's everything in Ansan. All right, everything in Tonggu with the 20th Army. Let's see. The 2 tanks are gonna go 1, 2 to Chosen. The supply truck. Well, they can feed off of the supply right there. Let's see. The R2. Well, actually, we'll just keep rushing supplies south, and then the 20th Army will come to Yangburi. And then finally, over in the territory that no one can pronounce,
Don't try it.
the 12th Army Group.
That's better.
Ooh, once again with 12th Army Group, or not 12th Army Group, just 12th Army. 1, 2 to Samsu. Now I can take 2 infantry I have 2 supply trucks there, so I can take 2 infantry. And then... Oh, I know. Yeah. Okay. So then, along with that will be these... With these 2 supply trucks, it'll carry 3 of the supply. 1 truck will carry 3 supply, 1 truck will carry 2 infantry, and then the rest of the 12th Army will move south into Pungsan with the AAA. Or, shoot. I'll just have to take that. Well, no. Wait, hold on. I think... Oh, that's right. That was... All right. Sparked something. All right, so that was a rule that he changed as well. So the Allies, just like in the actual Korean War, the Allies are not allowed to bomb the China factories. The only way they can do that is by using nukes to escalate the war. Then they can send strategic bomber raids into China.
I highly disagree with that.
Well, I remember we had a rule, I remember when we were working on our own, our rule was the Allies could bomb those factories, but that also was a trigger for the Soviets to come in. Like that was a second trigger for Soviet intervention. Was that
I would rather
if
have that
if the Allies take that risk of bombing the China mainland, then that would bring in the Soviets. Now, I mean, like I looked at this is also me like just kind of researching a little bit more into it. Like the strategic bombing of China kind of went hand in hand with also using tactical nuclear weapons. So again, on the historical side, I see the argument that Imperious Leader is trying to make by setting that.
But China didn't send whole armored divisions over to Korea either.
That's true. But then again, I mean, like we've talked about. I mean, I more think that all these pieces represent regiments. But even then, I think you are right though. Like China only sent I think China only sent a small, like no more than like 5 regiments of tanks to Korea. If I remember the history correctly, like it was a very small number of armor regiments that actually went down to actually fight. So then there's that. All right, so I move, but yeah, so as of right now, like I said, the rule that he has in place is that the Allies cannot attack China factories unless the U.S. escalates the conflict with nuclear weapons. Okay. I think that's it. I think all I gotta do is deploy for China now. Let me just take one more look real quick. Okay, moved you guys. I said you guys were gonna stay there. Moved you guys. Okay. Alright, so then I will be deploying the China fighter at Ansan. Now I will move the China roundel. Now here it says 35. That is a typo. China is still going to 25 like in a lot of the other playthroughs that I and Airsoft Commando have done. So China is still at 25 IPC once they come into the war. They don't get there's no extra bonuses or anything like that. China just gets a straight 25, which is what their territories actually total up to.
Apparently 400 to 500 is what they deployed in tanks.
Okay, so
it's more than I thought.
So 4 to 500 tanks. That is Well, okay, hold on, wait. They based themselves on the Soviet model. How many tanks was it per regiment of a Soviet armor unit? Of an
I can
armor
find that out
regiment?
right now.
I think it was somewhere between 50 and 80, I would think. Somewhere between 50 and 80 for a Soviet armor regiment. In like World War II and
93.
oh
So
wow.
you're right. 3 or 4. It's about 4 or 5
So
regiments is what
so
they
all
sent.
right, so you said 400 and what?
4 to 500, and it's 93 tanks per regiment. So about 4 or 5 regiments were sent in. Probably closer to 6 regiments.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
okay,
even if you went to the high end of 500, I mean if you take out, I mean
you
give
have
it
way more than 6 regiments of
no.
tanks.
Well, if it's 93 tanks per regiment, 500 divided by 93 is 5.4. So rounding down, you're looking at roughly 5 regiments of tanks that were
It's
sent.
probably more like 6 that aren't. Not all of them are at full strength.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So yeah, you're probably looking around like 6 regiments of tanks, which I mean it's pretty close. No,
But
not really.
you have a lot more than that. Actually, I'm looking at it right now.
That's true.
So yeah, either way,
Yeah, I know we talked offline about it a little bit, considering certain things and how initially when we were coming up with rules for China and stuff, we were looking at the game more of like through the lens of simul, where everyone goes at the same time.
and that
But
would fix a lot.
but playing the more distributed way, it feels like it kind of feels like China starts out in its initial setup even overpowered, and then them being allowed to purchase 10 IPC per turn, it definitely does seem to overpower them now.
Sure, but what's the China player supposed to do? Which is what we keep coming back to.
That's
If
true.
anything, they should be lowered back down to. They should be lowered to like 15 per then. Because you have 10, you have like 5 or 6 turns of nothing but prep, and then you have 15 or 20. I'm okay with 20 even.
Like 20
IPC
starting
for
units.
China. No, you get 20 IPC after. So you get a really nice burst, but then after that, what goes in after the main Chinese launch is reduced. So basically, it's like a Chinese wave. So what you have here is what you start with, and then your reinforcements aren't at full 20. That for 25. Sorry, the IPC in wartime is maybe 20 or 15.
I mean, there's that, or you could kind of do it more kind of, you could kind of do it more towards like, kind of what I read, what kind of happened in the, once the war started and stuff. Like China didn't have a lot on the border, but then as the war started to change, they started moving forces in to build up for their sneak into the country. So, I mean, it could also be that China, like China's initial setup is reduced, and then it allows you to build them up to a point, and then when they do finally come in, it can maybe mirror things a little bit. But
Well, why don't we just reduce the 12 infantry that are allowed to go out there?
you mean the 18?
Sorry, 18. Yeah, that I think feel like that needs to be reduced anyway. But if we reduce that, that would help a lot because 20 infantry is a huge number, essentially.
Well, right now it's 18. Originally it
Right.
was 15.
I'm rounding up. That's
Oh.
why I said 20, 20-ish. But yeah, that 18's way too much. The main
Mhm.
thing is we should lower it down to because we had a yeah, you're right. We did not have it was not nearly that high before.
No,
It's like 15.
it was 15 for it was 15 for the longest time, and then
It
I don't know
should
why
be
it
10.
got changed to 18. I mean,
Because
I guess initially it was to mirror that, like the 18 was supposed to be that initial wave because I think originally it was envisioned that China was supposed to be a non-player until they came into the game, and so like that A team was supposed to be their first wave burst, and then the follow-ons would come after that. Like a tapered
Yeah,
off follow-on would come after that.
but if they get that far on the board, it's pretty much game over anyway.
Mm.
But in my mind, the entire point of the infantry there was just to be like that tripwire. Like they get to bring China into the game by attacking
Oh,
because the
okay.
Allies came too close. That was always my vision for how that works.
Yeah.
They're not actually supposed to defeat anything, but they're supposed to be the tripwire that brings China into the war.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway,
But yeah, anyway, so that's China, so we will pass turn.